correctly with the correct amount.
Throwdown has just released a new album, Deathless, through E1 Music, formerly Koch Records in North America. This album is brutal and powerful in both lyrics and sound. To check them out and order their new CD, Deathless, and some really cool merchandise, log on to myspace.com/Throwdown. The band is touring with Bury Your Dead at the current time, and they are going to be on tour with Five Finger Death Punch and Shadows Fall in January and February, so be sure to attend their killer live performance. You don't want to miss them. What I found entertaining and very funny about the band is their tweets. Some of the things the band members write are hilariously funny, and you can find them at twitter.com/Throwdown. Hi, Tina here, journalist for HMTV Canada Easing. With me today is a very special guest. Please welcome Dave Peters, vocalist for the band Throwdown. Hi Dave, how is your North American tour going with Bury Your Dead?
It's great. We're kind of winding down with the tour. We've got about 3 more shows, including tonight, and it's been killer. We're actually on the same bus with Bury Your Dead, and that's been kind of experience in and of itself. And it's I don't know. The shows have been great. This tour was kind of all about playing some of the smaller towns that we don't tend to hit on a regular U.S. tour. And we'll, instead of going to Boston, maybe we'll go to New Hampshire. And instead of going to LA, we'll go to Anaheim. Instead of, New York City, we'll play upstate New York, for example. So it's cool in that regard that, that we're kind of coming to the fans versus kind of making them come to us and spend the extra money it costs to get there. So, it's been great. The turnout's been awesome. And, it's been really enthusiastic set. So we're all excited.
Are you selling lots of CDs and merchandise as well on this tour?
Yeah, surprisingly, given the state of the economy, it's, unfortunately, it's like entertainment, at least in our industry, it's unfortunate because, entertainment's usually the first thing someone's going to cut out of discretionary income. But, we've got a lot of people in the doors every night, and, we're selling a lot of the new CD, and, the money that people got, they can try and buy a T-shirt with. And, all things considered, we're more than happy with it.
I find Throwdown's Twitter very funny and entertaining, and I was thinking, would it be a better idea to sell Bury Your Dead boots rather than Throwdown's merchandise for beer money?
Yeah, no, that's actually a great idea. We kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But I don't know how much you can get for a pair of Bury Your Dead boots on eBay these days. I'll have to maybe take a photo of them and test the waters and see what I can get for a pair of white cowboy boots with rhinestones on them.
Is it true that there's a 15-foot flat screen in that bus?
There's a couple flat screens on the bus, but it's not 15 foot.
Okay. I had to square that up because I read that on Twitter. I'm like, what? How can that fit in a bus? I'm sure now.
No, that was me having fun.
Okay. How did your European tour go with Charmeria, Unearth, and Death, and also the Vans Warped Tour? Any wild stories to tell from these?
Yeah, the European tour was cool. We don't hit Europe as often as I think a lot of bands do. We'll go out there like once every couple years. And this is one of the few club tours we've done in Europe, and it was awesome. The guys in Chimera are great. Guys on Earth we've known for a long time, and we just met the guys in Dawson. And it was killer. The crowds were really receptive out there, and we had a good time. Even just on the touristy level, it's like, we go out, we get to see the world, and, our friends and family are jealous. But what they don't realize is that, we're driving half that time, and, we'll be lucky if we get to stop and see some tourist attractions and take some photos. But it was cool, we got to go up to the Eiffel Tower and do like all the nerdy, stereotypical American tourist shit. So, that was cool, as far as, crazy stories or whatever. To be honest, whenever we've got free time, it's like, I'm trying to, enjoy the scenery, and I just, seldom you'll find me in trouble when I'm overseas. Last thing I want to do is end up in, French jail or something,
Oh, no, you don't want to do that.
But Warped Tour was cool, too. Warped Tour is a whole other animal as far as touring goes in the States. It's very different from, any of the metal festivals that we've done in the past. It's very different from a regular club tour, and, it's kind of crazy. It's sort of a circus in a lot of ways. There's so many different stages and so much going on, and I'm amazed every year that the fact that they're able to make it all happen day in and day out with as many people that play a role in that tour. But every year it goes off without hitch, and it's great. And it was cool for us too. I mean, being pretty much the heaviest band on the tour when we did it a couple years back. And I think it gives kids kind of a taste of something a little different, and maybe a lot of these kids that are into more Warped Tour style music and that genre, I've never really heard maybe heavier bands, hardcore or metal bands, and it's cool for us on that level to be maybe that kind of gateway band for these kids to get into some new music or something they've never heard of before.
For sure. Our Hollywood Music TV in the USA supports the Vans Warped Tour. We sponsor it. So, yeah, for sure, you're right. I just wanted to say congratulations on your recent release of Deathless through E1 Entertainment. This album is brutal and powerful in both lyrics and sound. What motivated the band to write such intense, emotional, explicit lyrics for Deathless? And did the band write the songs as a collaborative unit?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think that kind of maybe made for a more dynamic and sort of interesting record was the fact that, Mark Chouanier and I, our guitar player, we collaborated a lot more on the songwriting than we had on Venom and Tears. For Venom and Tears, we put out in 2007, was, I wrote the majority of the music, and I write all the lyrics every time, so it was kind of, I guess maybe it didn't have the same kind of depth that Deathless does, for example, and all that layering and kind of that different perspective, I guess, of a song from someone else. So yeah, Mark and I worked real closely together, and I think we made what is definitely our favorite record that we've ever done as a band, and we're very proud of it, and we couldn't be happier. I mean, as far as what goes into it and the inspiration, lyrically, I like the record to be kind of a keyhole into what the past 2 years of my life have been, as far as since the last record, the last songs that we had put together as a band, and yeah, I mean, it's I always say that we want our music to be an extension of who we are as people, and we want those lyrics to be an extension of those events and those people that have shaped us. Deathless is definitely no exception to that. I think that something that kind of maybe separates the record on a lyrical level from things we've done in the past is, I don't know, I hesitate to call it a conceptual record, but it's definitely a thematic record, and, kind of the challenge I put in front of myself was sort of to tie all these songs together in maybe a more poetic fashion than I had in the past, where they would kind of just been chopped up and just, part of a cohesive record. I really wanted those songs to kind of be interrelated and kind of fall across the same theme. So, the theme of death and life and survival and, just, I guess, their interrelation and just kind of the cyclic nature of life of things kind of, beginning out of new beginnings coming out of something ending. And, across the board, all the lyrics and song titles are a testament to that, are, either directly about that or use one of those elements as a metaphor for something else in my life. So it was definitely challenging, but at the same time was very rewarding and an exciting record for me to, write on like a lyrical level. So, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely kind of set a precedent for us in the future when we write the next record as well, So we'll see if we can't top it,
Yeah, as well as the sound, something is noticeably different. There's a more brutal guitar riffs along with the vocals. Can you tell us the hard work that went into laying the song tracks down to the recording of Deathless?
I guess, like I was saying, we really want our records to be very natural and an extension of who we are, and there wasn't really a premeditated idea of what we wanted to do differently on this record. I think it just kind of comes as a natural evolution and a natural progression as we continue to write songs and as we continue to grow as people and musicians. And for this one, it's I guess there's maybe a little bit more groove as far as like the guitars and the drums interacting, and riff wise, a lot of it's kind of there might be several layers of guitars, but the basic riff will maybe be a little bit more stripped down, or maybe breathe a little bit more than some of the more intense riffs that we had, like on Venom and Tears, for example. I don't know. I think that that kind of lended itself a lot to things, to different ideas coming to the table, especially with vocals. I mean, when we'll have a guitar part that's kind of more open, and like I said, sort of breathes more and kind of gives way to maybe a lead guitar part or a vocal part, then it's kind of begging to have sort of a I guess, a linear melody or something very vocally driven, which is maybe something that didn't happen quite as much on Venom and Tears, where we had the riff and the vocals maybe competing a little bit more than on this record. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a very natural evolution and progression from what we had done in the past, and a whole lot of feeling went into it. But as far as the thought process went, it was really just kind of what came up.
Now, you're the lead singer of Throwdown, but did you play any of the guitars on Deathless for this album, and contribute to the riffs and that sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, for Venom and Tears, I wrote and recorded the majority of the guitars, and I mean, I've played guitar for almost 20 years, and that's kind of my first, not my first instrument, but my first, I guess, love as far as music goes. And like I said, for Deathless though, Mark Schwanner and I shared the writing duty a lot more, and also consequently shared the recording a lot more. And I think one of the cool and interesting things about it was he might have come to the table with a song fully written, and then we'd get in the studio and we would start recording it, and then he might say, hey, why don't you try this riff and see how it sounds when you play it, and then I would do the same, vice versa with a song that I had written, and he would maybe play some stuff I had written, which is kind of weird and peculiar, I guess, as far as recording goes, and something that Mudrock, our producer, pointed out was kind of different, and it's not something that usually the person that writes the song is going to play it, but I think Mark and I have a similar playing style, but kind of have our own little draw or our own little spin on the way we play riffs, and I think that kind of made for maybe a different sort of angle on a particular part or a particular song that one of us wrote. Just handing off the guitar and seeing how it goes. So we did a lot of experimenting in that regard, and like I said, I definitely had a heavy hand as far as playing the guitars went, but that's nothing really new for us.
Mm-hmm. So who's the current lineup now of Throwdown?
For Deathless, we had Jared Alexander playing drums, and otherwise it's been the same that we've had for the past few years. Mark Mitchell plays bass for us. Mark Schwanner is on guitar, and I sing. Jared's not a permanent member of the band. He's just an old friend that actually did. He actually recorded Haymaker with us in 2003, and he's just been a buddy and one of our peers from back home that we've always enjoyed playing with. So we thought that he would really contribute a lot to the record, and obviously he did. I mean, on a rhythmic level, I think the record is, like I said, it has kind of more of a groove. It is maybe more interesting in a lot of ways than Venom and Tears was, for example. But yeah, I mean, as far as the touring goes, right now, Lance Garvin, who is a drummer of Living Sacrifice, is sort of just filling the role for now. We're kind of just sort of feeling things out, and he may or may not end up joining the band, but we're kind of, I guess, in that limbo period right now between drummers.
It seems to me that all the band members are dedicated to working hard and pushing their musicianship skills to try new ideas with their sound. And would you say that Deathless was the most challenging album that you've put out to date?
Yes, I think the biggest reason it is, I mean, Venom and Tears, for example, is a very technical record, on guitar, and there's a lot of soloing, and there's still a lot of solos on the new record as well. But I think the most challenging thing about it was that there was so much more depth, I guess, to this record, and there's so much more going on in a particular part or a particular song than in the past. There's a lot of guitar layering, and there's a lot of vocal layering, and I guess just this kind of different elements that sort of orchestrate a song. And yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, is that, I mean, we all want to come in and make the record the best we can, and we always push ourselves as musicians and always, work hard for this band. I mean, we're what they call a working class band, it's like if we don't work hard, then we don't live, and we don't do the band, we don't play shows, and if we don't tour all year, then, we don't pay rent. So
That's right.
It's that level of where, you really don't have a choice, and, but for us, I mean, it's not about that. It's our passion, and whether it's making records or whether it's getting in a van or a bus and touring the States or whatever, then it's it's our passion. It's what we're driven to do. So we don't really look at it from that that work ethic standpoint. It's just we wouldn't do it any other way.
That's right. Well, Deathless is one great album, that's for sure. I mean, once I listened to it, I couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down. I had to keep listening to it. I thought, oh, this is awesome. This is a really fantastic. It has that live feel to the album, Deathless. That's what I really dig about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot of depth to it, and a big challenge for us is it's kind of trying to adapt these songs to a live setting, and like I said, we're a 4-piece, and there's a lot going on. in every song. So we almost kind of have to like write the entire record and record it, and then step back and sort of figure out how we're going to play it in a live setting. And that's that's always kind of fun, and I think something that people coming to a show look forward to, which is like, okay, cool, they have all these guitar harmonies on this part in the song. What are they going to do when they've got one guy and playing guitar? And it's cool, and it's like, it's a challenge for us, and I think that something that makes a live show unique and gives somebody a reason to come out and see it versus just listening to the record at home,
Yeah, that's right. Now, Deathless was produced by Murdoch, and Zeus had mixed it. Where was the album mastered?
It was mastered by Alan Douches in his studios west side, I think. I can't remember what city it's in exactly, but yeah, he actually mastered. He didn't master Venom and Tears, but he mastered Vendetta for us, the one that Zeus recorded in its entirety and mixed in its entirety too. So it was kind of cool, that we got to come back and work with both Mudrock and Zeus and Alan again on one project versus doing different records with them. And I think that's kind of what made for the record being in my opinion, our best on a production level.
Now, when it comes to the artwork, who designs all Throwdown's merchandise and CD covers for the album art?
For the album art, it's a friend of ours, Ryan Clark, who has done our last 4 records, including Deathless. And he works him and his brother Don are both owners of Invisible Creature Studios, and I mean they're at the they're at the top of the food chain when it comes to CD packaging and just design in general. And you'd be blown away if you went to their studio and see how much they've actually done for not just the music industry, but for design across the board, whether it's advertisement or layouts for magazines or photo shoots or what have you. So he's an old friend of ours. He's done a killer job in the past. We really kind of wanted that like photorealistic continuity that we've had across all the last records, and so he came to us with this idea for it. And we're really stoked about the album art this time around. It's much like the record. It's my favorite, and it's one of my favorites that Ryan and Don have ever done in general. He's a talented guy. I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due. He also sings and writes for a band called Demon Hunter.
Awesome.
Which is, one of my favorite bands as well. So, on every level, the guy is a great guy. He's a great musician. He's obviously a gifted artist, and it's just, a pleasure all around to work with him and be able to work with one of our friends each time. He's designed maybe a couple shirts for us, like kind of that were around the album art in the past. But in general, we'll have just kind of, we kind of try and keep our merchandise sort of, I guess, diverse, and we will, outsource to people all over the world. We've had guys from Brazil and guys from the East Coast and West Coast and from Europe, design different shirts for us and things, just to kind of have like a different take and something different for our fans versus having the same person, day in and day out do designs for us. I've even designed a few T-shirts myself. I'm far from being a Photoshop pro. If I have an idea and I can make it kind of come to life, and then I try, and there's a couple shirts on this tour that I designed myself just from my little laptop in bed.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a really good artist. He cut the essence of the album and the music right into the artwork. You can see it. It really stands out. He's really awesome, the artist.
Yeah, no, we're more than grateful to have him on board when we do these. I don't think it would be. I've said it before. I don't think it would be a Throwdown record completely without Ryan lending the art to it.
Are you going to be coming out with a DVD in the future that's going to covering any unreleased material by Throwdown, any footage of the concerts, live interviews, all in one package, like covering the history of the band, like a bio sort of thing?
Yeah, we'd like to. We have an outdated DVD that's kind of more centered around sort of the first incarnation of the band and the early history of it. And for all intents and purposes, with the lineup that we have now, and with, I guess, kind of the rebirth that we went under in like 2003, 2004, right when that DVD had already been edited and came out. We're essentially a different band. The message is there and the meaning is still there, and it's carried on from what we started as. But yeah, it would be nice. Especially for the guys that are in the band now that have been grinding it for the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. We would love to put something out that was, not just like I guess, showing how it is for us day in and day out, but kind of a tribute to our fans as well that, really keep us what we're doing day in, and on any given day. I mean, we, like I said before, we're a working class band, and without our fans, we're nothing, and we would love to do a DVD that's kind of like a tribute to that. Whether or not we have the material for it is another thing. We gotta just hire someone to come out and I guess film us for a few tours and start creating that that history, I guess, and recorded history. And I don't know. So hopefully one of these days we'll do that. I mean, right now the project we're working on is actually kind of a full length film that's set to Deathless as a soundtrack. And our friend Cale Glendenning is working on it right now, and we're kind of in the post-production process of it. But yeah, it's kind of something interesting and different that's, not your standard video for one song, and it just covers the entire record. So with any luck, we'll release a high-definition version of that on DVD eventually, and when that happens, I couldn't tell you. That's more up to E1 than it is us, but yeah, hopefully down the road we'll have that.
The fans are gonna love that for sure. So
that was kind of the intention,
Yeah, they'll love that. The fans always love that kind of stuff. So in the new year, are you still going to tour extensively throughout the USA, or are you going to tour throughout Europe or in Canada?
Yeah, I mean we're going to hit the ground running in 2010. I mean we're going to take off for. I already missed Thanksgiving, which is kind of one of my favorite holidays. So I'm bummed on that. But we'll be home for Christmas, and then we actually head out in late January with Five Finger Death Punch and Shadows Fall in the States. And that'll be mostly, kind of the bigger cities that we didn't hit on this tour that we're on right now. So, yeah, that'll be cool. And, we're going to definitely go, all over the planet, anywhere that'll have us. We've been to Australia, South America, Europe, Japan. Again, we would love to come back to a lot of those places and also, go places we've never been before, like Alaska and Southeast Asia, and hopefully get out and play shows as far east as Russia, So we're definitely going to be touring a lot,
Are you working on any new material at the moment?
I mean, the songwriting process for us is kind of, it never really starts or stops. I mean, we're always kind of writing a little bit. Admittedly, after we put out a record, there's kind of that, breather period where we sort of sigh a little bit and step back and kind of enjoy the record and enjoy the work we put into it. Mm-hmm. But, we're always kind of just writing riffs, and we're always sort of, have ideas floating around that we'll either record or, jot down. And, yeah, I mean, that's really kind of, I guess, the beginning, essentially, of the writing process. And, we're already kind of in that phase. But it'll probably be another couple years of us touring on Deathless before we release another record. But we're definitely already looking ahead to that, and we had a killer time making Deathless, and I definitely look forward to, making another record with Mark again.
Before we wrap up our interview, do you have anything you would like to plug in, such as promos, endorsements, or do you have anything to say to your fans and friends?
Like I said, I mean, without our fans, whether or not they're in the States or in Canada or overseas, we really wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. So, everything we do, every tour, every record we make is for them and is a tribute to them. So, yeah, I guess, first and foremost, I got to thank them for enabling us to, for, I guess, listening to these songs that we make. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be worth it. We wouldn't leave our homes and our families for as long as we do in any given year if we didn't have these people that were behind us so much. And, likewise with our families. I mean, we wouldn't be in a position to, to follow our, what we do, to follow our passion as musicians if we didn't have, I guess that
support,
that strong family and our loved ones back home. So yeah, I mean, I guess thank you to all of them, and thank you as well for the time.
Is there any endorsements you'd like to plug in?
I always feel kind of silly plugging those in, but I mean, I gotta say we play Randall guitar, we play Randall amps and Dean guitars and Washburn guitars, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Other than that, yeah, I mean, there's a million people I could rattle off and thank, but I don't want to come off as as like I'm selling something to anybody,
That's okay.
But yeah, if you play guitar and you like the way we sound, then hey, that's what we use.
Okay, for sure. Thank you, Dave, for this interview. I would also like to thank Bill Meese of E1 Entertainment for this interview opportunity. Horns high, you rock.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.